Join us as we explore the invisible energy system running just beneath your skin.
Mapping the vital streams that bridge our physical bodies with the deeper planes of life.
I'm Elliot.
And I'm Nadia.
Welcome to the Etheric Double by Arthur E. Powell. Okay, so I did a thing this week. I sat by the window with my coffee in the sun for maybe 10 minutes. And then later the same day, I sat under the big lamp in my office for 10 minutes. Same warmth, roughly. Same light on the skin, more or less. Completely different feeling afterwards.
Oh, totally different. One's a meal and one's a picture of a meal.
Right, and everyone knows this. Nobody needs convincing that sunlight does something a lamp doesn't. But if you ask what exactly, the answers get vague. Vitamin D, mood, something, something. And the thing is, after last episode, we know what this book would say. The lamp gives you light. The sun gives you light plus the globules, plus actual packaged vitality being generated in the air around you by the billions.
And that's exactly where we pick the book back up. Because last time we left one big question sitting open on purpose. The sky is full of these little charged globules of life. Fine. What takes them in? Like, where's the mouth? And this episode is the answer. This one's all about the force centers, the chakras, the machinery of the etheric body. We're going to meet the first few of them today, and especially the one that acts as the body's intake valve, which, it turns out, is not where I would have guessed.
Chapters 3, 4, 5, and 6. And fair warning, this is my kind of territory. There are diagrams, there are moving parts. I'm going to be insufferable.
You're going to be delightful, and I'm going to keep dragging every wheel and valve back to an actual, tired human body. Deal?
Deal. So, Chapter 3. The word first, because the word is the picture. Chakra is Sanskrit, and it literally means a wheel, a revolving disc. And that's not poetry, that's a description. These are structures in the etheric double, and to someone with the sight, they look like spinning vortices, little whirlpools. Powell says saucer-like depressions of rapidly rotating matter, sitting on the surface of the double.
On the surface, so a quarter of an inch outside the skin, where the double is.
Exactly there. Not inside the organs, that's a common mix-up. Each center sits just off the body, over its organ, like a dial on the outside of a machine. And here's the first thing worth saying plainly. Everyone has them. All 7, working, right now. You could not be alive otherwise, because the force flowing through them is what keeps the whole system going. The difference between people isn't whether the wheels are there, it's how alive they are.
And the book's picture of that difference is really vivid, right?
It's one of my favorite images so far. In most of us, a center glows dully and the matter moves sluggishly. Just enough of a whirlpool to pass the force through and no more. Idling, basically. But in a person who's developed, the same center is glowing and pulsing, blazing, Powell's phrase is, like miniature suns, and they grow. An ordinary center is maybe 2 inches across, fully awake, up to 6.
And I love the other end of that scale too. In a newborn baby, there are these tiny little circles, like a small coin. Hard little discs, barely moving, only faintly glowing. Which does something to me, honestly. This whole shimmering system, and it starts as these little sleeping coins that have to slowly wake up over a life.
And what are they for? 2 jobs, and you'll notice it's the same shape as last episode, because everything in this body has a life job and a bridge job. Job 1, each center absorbs and distributes vitality, prana, to the etheric body and through it to the physical. That's the keeping you alive part.
And job 2 is the bridge again. Each center brings down into your physical consciousness whatever quality lives in the matching center of the astral body, which is the dream thing from last episode, the letters that never get delivered. Powell says plenty of people are vividly awake and active on the astral plane all night. The memory just doesn't reach the brain because these etheric centers aren't developed enough to carry it across. The experience is happening, the postman's asleep.
Right.
And one more thing from this chapter that I want to underline, because people will tie themselves in knots otherwise. The book is clear that the development of these centers and a person's moral quality are two completely separate things. A deeply good person can have quiet centers, so nobody should hear any of this as a verdict on their soul. Okay, now do the thing you've been waiting to do since we started this book. Tell me how a wheel of light actually works.
So there's a set of drawings for this in the book, diagram 3. It's a whole little sequence. And if you have the book, it's really worth a look. But here's the moving picture in words. Step 1. The force, the primary force, wells up in the very middle of the center. And I say wells up deliberately because it doesn't arrive from anywhere you could point to. It comes from the astral plane, at right angles to the whole wheel. So from the etheric side, it just appears in the middle, like water rising in a spring.
Like a fountain coming up through the center of a pond.
That's the one. Step 2, that force hits the middle and then radiates straight outward in the plane of the wheel along a set of straight lines, spokes. And the number of spokes is different for each center. That's each center's signature. The spokes divide the wheel into segments, and the drawing looks exactly like the petals of a flower, which is why the Hindu books describe the chakras as flowers. A 4-petaled flower, a 10-petaled flower. Same structure, seen with a warmer eye.
A wheel to an engineer, a flower to a poet.
And both are accurate. Then step 3, and this is the bit that makes the whole thing shimmer. Once the primary force is radiating out along the spokes, it induces a second set of forces. And Powell reaches for a physics image here. It's like how a magnet thrust into a coil of wire induces a current at right angles. These secondary forces sweep round and round the wheel, and they weave, over and under the spokes, over and under, like the bottom of a woven basket passing over and under its ribs.
Ooh, so it's not just a spinning disc, it's a woven spinning disc.
A living weave, and each of those circling forces has its own wavelength, and they move in these big undulations. So the whole effect, and this is the book's description, is shimmering and iridescent, like mother of pearl. That's what a chakra looks like to the sight, a little woven wheel of pearl light with a spring rising in the middle of it.
Okay, that's beautiful. Give me the map now. The 7.
The 7, in the book's own order, and each one named for the nearest physical organ. The first is at the base of the spine, Muladhara. The second, at the navel, the solar plexus, Manipura. The third is the spleen center, which this system calls Svadhisthana. Fourth, the heart, Anahata. Fifth, the throat, Vishuddha. Sixth, between the eyebrows, Ajna. And seventh, the top of the head, the crown, Brahmarandra.
And can I put a small note here? Just for anyone who grew up with these words like I did, or who's done yoga teacher training, or whatever. This list will look slightly different from the one you know. In the classical yoga scheme, Swadhisthana is the sacral center, lower down, and the spleen isn't counted among the 7 at all. Powell's following Leadbeater's system, where the spleen is the 3rd center and carries that name. Neither of us is here to referee that. We're reading this book, so for this series, we use this book's map. Just don't be thrown if the furniture is arranged a bit differently than you learned it.
Good call out. Maps evolve. But for this deep dive, Leadbeater and Powell are our guides.
And there's one more line in chapter 3 to pass on exactly as plainly as the book does. Below those 7, there are lower centers, an 8th, a 9th, a 10th, connected with the lower organs. Students of what the book calls white magic leave them strictly alone. The dangers connected with them are so serious that Powell says their awakening should be considered the greatest of misfortunes. That's all the book says about them, and that's all we'll say. Noted, door closed.
Door closed. So of the 7, the book starts with number 3, the spleen, which seems like a strange place to start until you realize why.
Because it's the mouth.
It's the mouth, exactly. The intake. Everything we said last episode about the sky being full of vitality globules, this is the organ that eats them. Chapter 4 is maybe the most mechanically satisfying chapter in the whole book, and it's the heart of this episode. So, the spleen center, 6 spokes, And in appearance, it's special. The book says radiant, glowing, sun-like, which is fitting, right? The center that feeds on sunlight looks like a little sun itself.
The stomach of the light body looks like the thing it eats. There's something very tidy about that.
And here's what it does. And there's a lovely sequence of drawings for this, diagram 4, showing the stages. If you ever open the book to one thing, make it these. Stage 1, a vitality globule, one of those little 7-atom beads of charged life floating in the air, gets drawn into the center of the spleen wheel. Stage 2, the globule is broken up, split apart into its 7 component atoms, and each atom is charged with one of the 7 varieties of prana. Stage 3, those 7 charged atoms get caught by the secondary forces, the weave, and whirled round and round the wheel.
Like being spun in a sorting drum.
Exactly like that. And then stage 4. Each of the 6 spokes seizes one particular kind of atom as it sweeps past and dispatches it, fires it off along its own channel to the part of the body that runs on that kind. So one thing comes in, sunlight in a bead, and it comes out sorted. 6 streams plus one more we'll get to, each with an address on it.
Okay, so it really is the prism. White light goes in, the rainbow comes out, and every color gets piped to a different room of the house.
It's the prism made literal because the 7 kinds of prana are actually colored: violet, blue, green, yellow, orange, dark red, and rose red.
And the drawing of this is honestly my favorite in the book so far, because it's labeled like a plumbing plan. You can see every stream leaving the wheel with an address on it. The blue and the violet join into one stream and go up to the throat center. The green goes to the navel and the abdomen generally. The yellow goes to the heart. The orange and the dark red join up with that little thread of dark purple and go down to the base of the spine. So 5 main streams out of 7 colors because 2 pairs travel together.
Which accounts for 6 of the 7 kinds.
And you're saving the rose one, I can tell. You've been saving it this whole time.
I'm saving the rose one because the rose one is the star. The rose red prana, the 7th kind, doesn't go out along any spoke. It goes out through the hub, through the very center of the wheel, and from there it spreads across the whole nervous system. And here's the detail I find quietly wonderful. Those rose atoms are the original atoms. When a globule forms in the sunlight, remember, one charged atom draws 6 others around itself. The rose atoms are those first ones. The seed of the globule ends up as the life of your nerves.
The one that gathered the family ends up carrying the deepest job. Okay, and this is where I want to slow us down. Because this rose prana thing explains something so recognizable. Say what happens when the nerves run short of it.
When the nervous system isn't getting enough rose prana, the nerves become sensitive and intensely irritable. The person gets restless, can't settle, and the least noise or touch is agony. That's the book's word, agony.
And that is a day I have had. That's the frayed day, where the tag on your shirt is unbearable, and someone chewing across the room makes you want to cry. And you snap at people you love and you don't know why. And what the book is saying is, that's not you failing at patience. That's a supply problem. Your nerves are running on empty and everything scrapes.
And the flip side is the door to a whole later episode, because Powell says a healthy person can flood someone else's nervous system with a supply of rose-colored prana and give them instant relief. One person's surplus can top up another person's empty. That's the seed of the entire healing chapter, and we're going to do it justice properly in a few episodes.
Which, if you're a pranic healer listening, is the sentence you've been waiting for. It's coming. Okay, now the aura. Because you promised me last episode that this is where the health aura properly lives.
This is its home chapter, so follow the atoms one more step. The prana gets used, the charge gets drawn off the atoms, the body spends it, and the spent particles, plus any charged ones the body didn't need, get discharged out through the pores of the skin. And that outflow, that constant fine rain of particles leaving you in all directions, is the health aura. It shows as a pale bluish-white emanation around the body.
So the aura, this aura anyway, isn't a halo that's just sort of there. It's exhaust. It's the visible outflow of you spending your life force.
It's the outflow, and here's the part that makes it more than exhaust. In a healthy person, the particles stream out through the pores in straight lines, standing straight out from the skin. So the whole aura has this combed, striated look, bristling in a good way. And those straight lines are a defense. The outrush actually repels disease germs, physically pushes them off, and carries them away. Powell describes it as a system of defense. When the lines are firm and straight, the body is protected.
And when you're run down, the picture changes. And the book's list of causes here is painfully relatable, by the way. Weakness, overfatigue, a wound, depression of spirits, the excesses of an irregular life. When any of that's going on, the body needs an unusually large amount of prana inside for repairs. So the amount radiating out drops, and the lines of the aura droop. They get erratic and confused, tangled instead of combed. The defense weakens and it becomes comparatively easy for germs to get in.
The wall comes down exactly when you can least afford it.
And everyone knows this pattern from the inside. That's what gets me. You push too hard for 3 weeks, you're exhausted, you're low. And then you catch the thing going round, and everyone says, well, your resistance was down. The book is drawing that, literally drawing it. A tired aura with its lines drooping like unwatered plants, and the door standing open. Same folk knowledge we've always had, but with a picture and a mechanism behind it.
And the same chapter explains the other half of what you feel around people. Because in vigorous health, the spleen does its work so generously that you make more charged prana than you can use, and the surplus gets shed in all directions. So a really healthy person is, without knowing it, a source of health and strength to everyone around them. They're radiating spare life all day.
The person who walks in and the whole room feels a bit better. We all know one of those. You feel it come off them, like warmth off a wall that's been in the sun.
And then there's the opposite case, and the book is very matter-of-fact about it. A person whose system can't specialize enough prana for their own needs, whose intake isn't working properly, acts unconsciously like a sponge. They draw vitality out of any sensitive person who happens to be near. The book actually uses the word vampire for this vampire-like faculty of draining others.
The friend you love dearly, and after an hour with them, you are completely done in, flattened. And you feel guilty about it because they didn't do anything wrong. And here's the thing, they really didn't. That's the important bit. It's not on purpose, and it's not a moral failing. Their system isn't making enough, so it pulls from the nearest full vessel. Nobody's scheming. It's plumbing again. A leak pulling from the mains.
Right, though the book's honest that the benefit to them is only temporary, and the cost to the sensitive person can be real. It also notes, in passing, that this same draining can happen in an aggravated form at seances, which is a thread we're going to pull on properly in the Ghosts episode later in the series.
And there's a remedy in here that I flat out loved because it's so gentle and so doable. The trees.
The trees. So the vegetable kingdom absorbs vitality too, but most plants only use a small part of it, and certain trees, the pine and the eucalyptus especially, extract almost exactly the same constituents from the globules as the human etheric body does, and then reject the rose-colored atoms they don't need. Just give them off all day.
So the air around those trees is rich in exactly the kind of prana human nerves run on, which means when someone is nervously depleted, frayed, burnt down to the wick, sitting under pine trees is not just fresh air and vibes. In this picture, it's a transfusion. The tree is throwing away the exact medicine your nerves are short of. Go sit with the pines and breathe. My grandmother would just nod at this, by the way, slowly, like, took you this long.
There's one more practical note in the chapter, and then the last two centers. Both prana and etheric matter respond very readily to the human will, so it's possible, by an effort of will, to check that radiation at the edge of your health aura and build it into a wall there, a shell, which keeps your vitality from being drained away and keeps unwanted things out. The book leaves it at a mention here, and so will we, because there's a whole chapter on shells and shields coming in the Ghosts episode. But if you've ever instinctively pulled yourself in a crowd, wrapped yourself, you are reaching for something the book says is real and buildable.
And one lovely dangling promise. Developing the spleen center is what lets a person remember their astral journeys. Those vague memories most of us have of blissful flying dreams. The book says slight accidental stimulation of this center is often exactly where those come from. Some of your letters got delivered after all.
Okay, 2 more centers, and we can be quicker now because the machinery is established. The first center, base of the spine, 4 spokes. So in the drawing, it looks like a cross, 4 petals with hollows between the quadrants, and the cross is actually an old symbol for this center. In color, it's fiery orange-red, and that matches its supply because it receives the orange and dark red stream from the spleen with that thread of dark purple mixed in.
And what does it do with it?
The orange-red ray flows to the generative organs. It energizes the sexual nature, and it also seems to enter the blood and keep up the heat of the body. So this center is fuel. It's the furnace room. Sex, heat, base vitality. And it's the seat of something else, which the book only names here and treats very carefully later. Kundalini. The serpent fire sleeps in this center. That gets its own episode, episode 4, and it deserves the room. So we're leaving the sleeping fire exactly where it is today.
But there's one teaching from this little chapter we shouldn't skip past. And let's do it the way the book does. Plainly.
Right, so the book says a very remarkable effect can be produced by a person who persistently refuses to yield to the lower nature. By long and determined effort, that orange-red ray can be deflected upward. Instead of pouring down into the furnace, it's turned up the spine to the brain. And when it arrives there, all 3 of its constituents get transmuted. The orange becomes pure yellow and intensifies the intellect. The dark red becomes crimson and increases the power of unselfish affection. And the dark purple becomes a pale violet and quickens the spiritual side of the nature.
So nothing gets thrown away. That's what I want to underline in this. Because traditions that talk about mastering the lower nature often sound like they're asking you to amputate something. And this picture is the opposite. It's the same energy, the same fuel. It just gets carried upward and becomes thought, and becomes love, and becomes spirit. Transmuted, not suppressed. The furnace fuel becomes lamplight.
And the book adds 2 plain notes. A person who has completed that change finds that sensual desires simply no longer trouble him. It's not a white-knuckle fight forever. And, looking ahead, when such a person eventually comes to arouse the serpent fire, they're free from the most serious of its dangers, which is a sentence that will make full sense in 2 episodes.
Okay, last one for today. The navel.
The second center, at the navel, the solar plexus. 10 spokes, so a 10-petaled flower. Its coloring is a curious blend, shades of red with a great deal of green through it. And the green is its supply line. It receives the green ray from the spleen. And that green floods the whole abdomen. It vivifies the liver, the kidneys, the intestines, the digestion generally, all centered on the solar plexus.
And its quality, the thing it brings through from the astral side, is the one everyone already trusts without knowing why. Feeling. This is the center of feeling and emotion. When it's awake astrally, it gives a general sensitiveness. And when the etheric center becomes active, a person starts to actually feel astral influences in the body, vaguely sensing friendliness or hostility, knowing some places feel good and some feel wrong without the least idea why.
Without the least knowing why. That's nearly the book's exact phrase. There's no image, no voice, no information, just the register of it, in the body, at the solar plexus.
Which is the gut feeling. That's what this is. You walk into a room where an argument just happened, and you know. Nothing visible, nobody said anything. The air just has a texture. Or you meet someone perfectly pleasant, and something in your middle quietly says, no. Everyone I know trusts that sense with their life, and nobody can say where it lives. And the book just points at it. Second wheel, 10 petals. There.
So look at what we've actually built today. The intake at the spleen, drinking globules and splitting them like a prism. The furnace at the base, taking its fuel. The feeling dial at the navel, reading the emotional weather. 3 wheels down, and already the body is running like a small, orderly waterworks. One thing comes in, gets sorted into streams, and every stream has a job.
And the thing I want everyone to carry out of this one is that none of it is private. That's what got me this episode. Your vitality is a shared thing, whether you like it or not. You're either shedding health on the people around you or drawing it from them, most of the time without anyone knowing, which makes looking after yourself a strangely generous act. Rest, sun, the pine trees. You top yourself up, and everyone near you gets the overflow.
And we're only 3 wheels up the ladder. Next episode, we climb the rest of the way. The heart, the throat, the brow, and the crown, and the faculties that come with them. Feeling what others feel, hearing what can't be heard, seeing what can't be seen, and staying conscious straight through the night. Plus the body's exhaust system, which sounds unglamorous and hides one of the loveliest images in the book, a fiery cascade out of the top of the head. And then the payoff of this whole stretch, the master distribution chart, where the entire vitality system, sun to skin, sits in one drawing.
The whole machine in one picture. That's next time. And if this kind of thing speaks to you, this show is part of a growing family of shows over at Pillar 5 Media.
Different hosts, different books, all of us taking something deep and trying to make it feel a bit more like a conversation with a friend.
You'll find all of them at pillar5media.com.
And that's pillar, then the number 5 as a numeral, media.com.
Thanks for spending this bit of your day with us. Go find some sun. And maybe a pine tree.
And say hello to your spleen. It's been feeding you this whole time, and nobody's ever once thanked it. We'll catch you in the next one.